You're listening to the Practical Wealth Show with Curtis May, putting you in the driver's seat to control your finances. Let's start the Practical Wealth Talk about alternatives to Wall Street.
All right, welcome to the Practical Wealth Show. This is Curtis May, and I'm very excited to have a special guest with us, a good friend of mine from Las Vegas, Joe Pantozzi of Alpha Omega Wealth, one of my mentors. We're just going to talk a little bit about finance, our views on finance, our views about, privatized or infinite banking, or that people call it, and, how it can help consumers out there to build more security and have a better life. And, we're kind of my shows are unscripted, so we're going to kind of see where this goes, and we're just going to kind of freestyle. So Joe, say hello to the family out there.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so happy to be talking to Curtis. You are you're a joy to behold, man. I am so happy to be hanging around with you and do any kind of work that I can with you.
That's awesome. So Joe, tell us a little bit about your background. And you've been in a few years, and when did you make the switch over to what we now call prosperity economics?
Sure. It probably came in a couple of stages. So I've been in the life insurance and investment world for a long, long time. And then I met Nelson Nash in 2001 and started learning about the infinite banking concept. Right. And kind of slowly, like I do a lot of things in life, kind of slowly took hold of that thing and really didn't start to run with it and practice it in my own life and start to teach clients about it till about 2003. So really 2003 till now, so about 14, 15 years. And the good part for me was that when I came in life insurance business, universal life did not exist. And so I learned the insurance business, which came first, understanding whole life and how whole life works and why it works and the foundation and so forth. And then along in the late 70s, early 80s, pretty much the creator of universal life was E.F. Hutton. So I've been around to watch the evolution and the upturns and downturns of universal life and those different variations for a long time. And because I met Nelson Nash and started working with him around 2002, 2003, then I was able to meet Todd Langford and Kim Butler and start to learn about prosperity economics from a distance. And then as we became closer and closer, and I started to really get into Truth Concept software and use Truth Concept software to explain truths and examples and scenarios to clients. Then I continued to build up a relationship with Todd and Kim, and then you come to where we are today. I'm a member of the prosperity economics movement, and we're just so interested in exposing the truth about money to people and having them really think more deeply about their wealth, about their future, about their money, about their jobs, about their families, and why they're working for what they're working, and maybe also learning about some of the reasons why they have caps that are probably self-imposed. And you're probably familiar with what I'm saying, but it's, we talk about prosperity economics principle number 1, which is think. And I hardly get into a conversation to a client and ever get to principle number 2 because it takes there's so much exposure that's needed to remind people that it's their thinking that limits them.
Exactly. One of the things Nelson would say is that you can't think like the world thinks. You've got to kind of think from an opposite perspective. And, you have to think. One of the things that Kim talks about, our mutual friend, and so we were both in Park City last month for the summit for Prosperity Economic Advisors. And so think from an abundance mindset, and most people think from if they think, they're thinking from a scarcity perspective. Is that what you mean by that, or would you say that?
That's exactly what I mean, and I'll give you an example if you don't mind. I was on the phone with a young lady who's an advisor and a colleague of mine in Southern California. And she continues to paint herself as someone who's administrative only. And so she says to me, well, I only have to rely on my agents that are working with me on my team because they're the only ones who can bring in clients. And I've been a property and casualty agent for so long. The only thing that I really know how to do is the administrative and the paperwork part. And I'm saying, you put that limit on yourself. And because what I've learned about selling, and I know that selling is a dirty word, so I apologize for using it on the air. But from what I've learned about selling is giving value. What we learned in the book, The Go Giver, is that we believe that we should give more value to a client, deliver more value to a client than we ever receive back in payment. So as regards this young lady, I'm saying to her, you need to go out and talk to your warm market, talk to your people that you know, talk to business associates, talk to colleagues, talk to advocates who believe in you, who believe in your integrity, and share with them what you do. And all you're really doing is you're enhancing their life by bringing to them products and services that they were unknown to them before. And they're going to see your heart. And when they see your heart, they're going to want to know more about what you do. And at the end of the day, if you start off wanting to give and you end up wanting to give, there's no way that you can lose, and there's no way that you can do anything but enhance a relationship. So for me, selling is serving relationships.
Absolutely. I mean, selling is not a bad word to me. One time I gave a marketing talk to SCORE here in Philly with 300 business owners. And I said, well, how many of y'all like selling? And I tell you, maybe 15% of the hands went up. I said, well, what business do you think you're in? And so here's my definition of selling. Well, it's not mine. I got it from Dan Sullivan, but it's getting someone intellectually engaged in a future result that is good for them, right? And in helping them to emotionally commit to take action to achieve that result. And see, so one of the things is that, hey, if you have, and this is not just for our business, this is for whatever you're doing. If you feel in your heart, and within your heart that, like, I feel like if we don't talk to them, if they don't work with me, if I touch their life, they are supposed to be better off, or I haven't done my job. And I'm worried that if they don't work with me, they're not going to be all right, And so you have to feel that way about whatever you're doing. And then you're not selling, because see, most people have this idea of selling as trying to talk people into doing stuff, or trying to convince people to buy something they don't want nor need. And that's not what good salespeople do. And nothing moves in sales, but it's just solving problems, And so most people have financial problems and they don't have answers, right? And so we're just helping them. Our products are just tools of implementation, but really, we're helping people solve financial problems. So don't apologize for selling, because that's a beautiful thing.
A lot of the reason why I can't help some people is because that they don't believe that they can be helped. They don't believe that their situation has a solution. They don't believe that they can get out of what they do for a living. Even though they may not like what they do for a living, they don't see a way out. And the reason they don't see a way out is because they haven't looked for a way out. They haven't visualized the way out. And to be honest with you, Kurt, it brings me to tears. I feel so emotionally upset for people because I know that they have greatness inside of them, but they've put these blinders on themselves. They've put these shackles on themselves, and they don't allow themselves to dream. They can't imagine doing anything other than what they do right now. And therefore, the only thing that they're really working for is the end of the day, the end of the week, the paycheck. But they know that when they get that paycheck on Friday, it's going to be gone by Monday. And they believe that there's no out, that there's no outlet, there's no solution, there's no freedom.
Right. And they've lost their ability to dream probably from the time they graduated college. After a couple of years, they get so beaten down that they just, they don't do it anymore. Would you say that, I tell people you got to stay green and growing, and always looking forward, and don't let, it's like our kids. I coach youth, and I say, listen, I'll tell the parents that kids will live up to the expectations that you set for them. So even when I work with clients, I'm always trying to, give them a new goal, and trying to paint a bigger picture. And I feel like my job is to give them light at the end of the tunnel and show them that there is a way out. You just don't see it yet, but I see it.
Well, that's a great point. Pete, I'm just kind of making a note of what you just said, and what I just heard is that people will live up to their own expectations, but if they don't set expectations that exceed their grasp, then they're never gonna extend their reach. They're never gonna grow. They're never gonna expand. Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you, I give you props to Adam from New Jersey, who said, our job is to inspire and instruct as advisors. And I really took that to heart. And that was Alan, not Adam, Alan. And that I thought about that because I see myself as a financial educator, but really education, if they don't take action, doesn't do any good. So you need to inspire them and instruct them on what to do. And that's really not do it for them. Because I tell people, look, it's your money. It ain't Curtis's money. It can't be more important to me than it is to you. So, I'm going to, and you're not empowered if you don't, take control of and lead your wealth.
The problem that we've had in our country, and the reason why you and I have a little bit of a challenge in trying to overcome the stigma and the negative impression that people have of advisors, financial advisors, is that most agents out there are not advising; they're selling, and selling because they have their own issues, their own caps, their own blinders on, and so they're not truly looking out for the other person's welfare. They're just looking to sell a product that takes them to their paycheck.
That's a shame because that's kind of when I always tell people I lost my religion, so to speak, because I was working with a company and that was doing equities, and I inherited this client. I was doing a teachers 403B programs, and this guy had her totally in Janus Technology Fund. I mean, she was 68 years old, right, and it had been up 50%, and then 9/11 happened, and she lost like 50 grand in I want to say 2 months. And so the wholesaler came down. I told him this story. He goes, "Well, the market's going to come back." And what? I said, did I mention that she was 68? Is not coming back in her lifetime. And I realized that I needed to know more because I didn't know, why things happen, what drives markets up and down. And I started to really think one of the other principles, 7 principles, is not measure opportunity cost, but you have to think macro, like look from a macro standpoint. And yeah, big picture, think big, and so what happens is you need to, why, markets are up. Well, why are markets up? Or why does it happen? What happened? When the real estate bubble happened, I still didn't understand, the Austrian business cycle theory, all that stuff that I'm kind of gotten into now as Nelson has got me into Austrian economics. And now you can kind of see what happens. And one of the things Nelson Nash, the author of Become Your Own Banker, we were throwing his name around. I heard him say, if you know what's going on, you'll know what to do. And so most people are what I call distracted with bread and circuses, right? And with the Super Bowl, with Dancing with the Stars, with all that stuff, Game of Thrones, which I love, so I'm not going to front. But you got to know what's going on because it's your money, and so you're saying, look, I'm hoping. I want to abdicate responsibility. I just want to show up and, live my life paycheck to paycheck. And hopefully somebody will have a magic formula that I'll be able to retire with all this money. I don't think that's good stewardship.
So I think what we've been talking around has been the why. I think you and I both spend a lot of our time, probably knowingly or unknowingly, just from our heart, talking with people about their why and trying to encourage them to think about their why. Because if you don't have a great why, then you won't be able to accomplish the goals that you say you have. But on the other hand, if you have a great why, then you can endure and overcome any obstacles that are in the way. And one of the things that I think you and I both do, and I hope we always do it for the rest of our lives, is challenge people to create a bigger why. Because I have a lot of friends and clients and colleagues who have causes, And I'm challenging them to think outside of their own needs and their own wants, even beyond their own legacy for their own family. So for example, if you had $10 million in your bank account right now, what would your life be about? And if you were able to accomplish what it is that you truly want your life to be about, it wouldn't be about money. It would probably be about helping people, about doing more good, about enlightening people, about giving people financial education, about empowering people to lift their own lives up. And I really believe that one of the reasons why people don't become millionaires is because it's not because they don't know how. They can find out how. There are a million ways to become a millionaire, but they don't have the why. And because they don't have the why, they don't have the motivation.
Right, exactly. Or they're held back by beliefs. I was at a conference event the other night, and this woman said, "Well, I want to. She's got a business, but she wanted to build a nonprofit." And I said, "Well, why do you want to do that?" Because it was some reason. I said, "Listen, it could basically love people will feel." Or other people make you feel guilty for being successful. And I said, listen, just like I don't back away from sales, if you're winning in business, you're providing a great service, you're changing people's lives. So if you're making money, you don't need to apologize for that or try to say I'm a nonprofit. Look, be for profit and give money away. Giving is a wealth principle, right? But you don't have to, hide behind that stuff. If you have a good service, offer it and make money, and don't worry about what other people are saying. You just do good work for people. I feel like in our business, Joe, that if we are successful, we're fortunate because our vocation is our invocation, right? And so I'm like, if you drop $10 million on me, I'll tell you exactly what I'd be doing. I would still do this. I would do workshops. I'd be running around the country doing financial workshops, and I'd probably be a high school basketball coach. I would be a high school basketball coach. That's what I would be doing. Okay. And, because those are the two things I love teaching, and I love working with, youth sports, and developing people. So I would still do that. And I like teaching this stuff because it's almost the same thing. It's like, because there's so much myth conceptions out there with finance. And, our contention always is most people don't get financial education. They get financial training or financial indoctrination that basically in a lot of different ways says, give your money to us, and, I tell people 2 + 2 is 4. You don't need to, you're smart enough to figure this deal out.
Let me say a word about excellence, if you don't mind. And I believe, because I've known Curtis for just a handful of years, and we've been in touch over the years because of our associations in this industry, and because we both have common values, and we both believe in excellence. I believe that people want to work with someone who is diligent and who is excellent in their craft. I mean, and I thank God every day that for some reason he allowed people to come into my life and buy life insurance from me when I was 23 years old, and I didn't know how to spell life insurance. But some way, somehow, people maybe saw through to my heart, and they saw that I was honest, and they saw that I was a little bit humble, and they saw that I was willing to go find the answers I didn't already know. But here's an example of excellence and diligence. My daughter just had a very complex and major eye surgery to get rid of a cataract and to replace the lens in her eye. She had the second eye done this past Friday, the 25th of August, and she had the first eye done on May 26th. And I remember those dates because this was eyesight saving surgery. Now, the gentleman, the doctor who did the surgery, is out of Salt Lake City, Utah. And he was one of a handful of people that we interviewed who are world-class surgeons in these techniques. This surgery took 2 hours for each eye. I mean, this wasn't a simple lens replacement. It wasn't a simple LASIK. It wasn't a simple cataract surgery. This was major surgery. And these people charged me what you might what you might pay to get a new set of tires in your car. And I'm still so humbled and so emotional when I talk about this, because these people are at the top of their industry, top of their class, top of their expertise on the planet. And you know what they care about? Restoring people's eyesight. But I didn't want to go to a local pediatrician. I didn't want to go to a local chiropractor. I didn't want to go to a local acupuncturist. I wanted to go to an eye specialist. And that's why we found the best on the planet, right? People want to come to the best in our class as well. And I got to throw this in. Robert Kiyosaki said, most people are poor because they're taking their financial advice from salespeople instead of rich.
Right.
Instead of rich people. And I can't apologize for doing well. I mean, a friend of mine said, all you got to do to make it in this business is last. If you last, if you're honest, if you tell people the truth, and if you care about people, we are going to take care of our clients. But we enjoy being the best in class, and we also enjoy being giving the best to our clients. That's why they come to us, and that's why they get great value, and that's why we get good value for ourselves. Secondarily, our clients' value comes first, and once we give more in value than we receive back in payment, both sides win, and that's the essence of selling.
Absolutely. So tell me some, I guess, as you've been working with this concept with clients, maybe some lessons learned that our listeners could apply, why they should be doing it, lessons learned, how it enhances their personal economy.
Well, I try to keep things simple, because if they're not simple, I couldn't understand them. So one of the things that I want to talk about with my clients is, hey, where do you put your money? Where are the places where you keep your money right now? Now, I personally can only find about 5 places where people can put their money. 1 is in cash, 2 is in a business, 3 is in the stock market, 4 is in real estate, and 5 is in life insurance. And I go through those 5 components because I really don't think that there is a 6th. And we talk about the pros and cons, and we talk about the reasons why they might want to have their money in one place or another, or in multiple buckets. That's fine too. But my clients want to understand the pros and cons. I am not here to sell people real estate, but I'm here to educate people on how to buy real estate most efficiently and effectively, and at the greatest profit. I'm here to talk about good debt and bad debt. When is the right time to use leverage? When is not? What is an asset? What is a liability? I want to do the basic hitting and running and catching, and have people get those basics under their belt. I want to ask people to question their understanding about finance, because one of the first things that we need to do is have people unlearn some of the things that turn out not to be true. And I'll bet that the first point that I always bring up very, very frequently is the question about compound interest. And I'll just ask them what they think about compound interest, how they think it works, and who do they know that uses it. And for the most part, 95% of the time, probably more than that, people don't understand compound interest, and they don't understand that it's the least that you can do with your money, not the optimal that you can do with your money. And so when they have stars in their eyes about their friend that just made 18% in the stock market, I want to remind them that's a short-term play. All right. I don't know if the stock market's going to give you 18% next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. And I don't know if the stock market's going to take back 40% the year after that. So I want you to have some realistic viewpoint about what you're going to put your money in. And also remind them, rich people didn't get rich by taking risk. Rich people got rich by securing their capital and not taking chances with their capital. And rich people got rich by having their assets pay for their liabilities. That's a big truth that I found from Robert Kiyosaki, where what happens is poor people actually go into debt to buy more liabilities. For example, a car. And they pile debt on top of debt on top of liability, because they don't understand if you want to create true wealth, you need to have your assets pay for your liabilities. And an asset is something that creates positive cash flow. So these are all kind of 101 type concepts that we explore. And I ask my clients to have that discussion with me so they can take part in the financial education, so that they can take control over their wealth profile and have a real concrete grasp on what they want to achieve and how they want to achieve it.
That's phenomenal. I always tell you, just piggybacking on the debt, I always tell people, because when you go into debt to, basically you're spending money you don't have and you're using future earnings as collateral. And so you're still paying for decisions you made 3, 4, 5 years ago. That's impacting current cash flow because you still have to service that debt. You don't even remember what you borrowed the money for.
Yes. So you put that shirt on a credit card and the shirt costs you $50. It winds up costing you $150 by the time you pay the credit card off.
Right. And it's all those little decisions that in the moment don't seem like they're a big deal, but they create a trajectory in your life that, and one of the things that I always tell people, I did on a video the other day, I said, most people don't have a money problem. They have a philosophy problem, right? And and because I always tell people, look, there's only 4 things you can do with $1 when it hits your personal economy. You can spend it, save it, invest it, or give it away, right? And the order in which you do that forms the foundation of your philosophy. So if you think, money was meant for spending, or I got to pay my bills, or I got to pay extra on my mortgage, that's spending. That's giving it away. But you're giving away before you had a chance for your capital to work for you. Giving is a wealth principle, but so you've got to look at the order, but you've got to treat yourself well first. And so you have to think about when that money hits your personal economy, what's the plan? Not just reacting to whoever yells the loudest.
That's a good truth. I just wrote that one down. Thank you.
Well, listen, I have a whole page full of notes. So well, let me ask you this. I always like to know, because this is for my notes, but what are you reading now? What you have any 2 or 3 things that you are finding interesting that you're reading now?
I almost grab anything that has to do with wealth. If it has wealth in the title, I pick it up. And some of those titles are kind of empty suits, and some of those titles have one nugget in them that I can use and share with a client. And for example, Robert Kiyosaki's Second Chance. I have that on my Audible on my phone, and I'm listening to it for the 4th time. I think there's some amazing truths in there. I really believe that's a book that every single person on the planet should listen to.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
There's, if you want me to continue, there's another book by Rabbi Daniel Lapin. He's an Orthodox Jewish rabbi who talks about finance. And he has 2 books out. One is called Thou Shalt Prosper. And the second book is called
I have
Business
the first one. I don't have
Secrets
that one.
from the
Okay, I'll write that
Bible.
down.
And I flew out to the Midwest a couple of years ago to go and listen to him talk for a full day. And he's got amazing insights, again, about money. And about the value of money, and the fact that also, I'm sorry, I should have said about selling, and the fact that when we sell, we're giving someone else the greatest gift that we could possibly give them when we sell them something that they need, and all they give us back is kind of meaningless pieces of paper, which are just a medium of exchange. What they got was the true value. Otherwise, they wouldn't give up those pieces of paper for it.
That's a good point. People say my pitch, I want to hear your pitch. I says, I don't have a pitch. I have a presentation, and the root word of which is present. I'm giving you my present of explaining this concept to you.
I love it. The other one is, and I don't care what business you're in, we're all in sales. Whether you admit it or not, every single person on the planet is in sales. And The Go-Giver is a book that every person on the planet should read. And then the follow-up to that is The Go-Giver Sells More by Bob Berg.
Okay, I don't have that one.
I just got a book in the mail from Amazon the other day, and it's by a gentleman named Brian Buffini. He coaches real estate agents, and his agents average about 10 times more than the average real estate agent sells. So Brian Buffini is a great motivator and positive influence on people who are in sales. Wow, it's funny. I probably order 2 or 3 new books every single week, and I'm just piled up and trying to keep up with my reading.
It's good to meet somebody that's either outreads me or reads as much as me. My favorite tool, I still like my Kindle is and my Audible is like my favorite tools because I am like immediate gratification. So if I see a title and if it's on Kindle, boom, I have to have it. Right? I don't even want to go to a bookstore. I need it right now. And I'll knock it out. And I did this video I put on YouTube called or does all that reading really help? It was from a conversation I had in a barbershop. So I said, I'm just going to start to, tell stories about these interesting conversations. Because like, man, you always reading stuff. I was like, listen, people died so I could read. But beyond that, I said, listen, you have to, I'm an educator, so I can't be in the thought leadership. If you're going to be in the thought leadership business, you have to be in the knowledge acquisition business first, because most of people aren't going to read like we read. So our job is to curate that and kind of teach it. So I find that one of my unique abilities is I can assimilate information really quickly and I can draw it to you on a napkin. When Kim had us do our Colby, I was like, okay, I I thought I was kind of strange. Now I've embraced my inner nerd. So and
Hey, listen, I don't know if you read this book, but by Tony Robbins, called Money Master the Game. In chapter
no, I haven't.
5.5, he talks about secrets of the ultra wealthy that you can use too. And he talks about a new world record where a billionaire bought a life insurance policy that was $201 million. It was the world's largest life insurance policy. And the fact that wealthy people use traditional life insurance products as a tax shelter, as a hedge against inflation, as a guaranteed source of capital, as a windfall, and as credit protection. I mean, all the basic things that we talk about all the time, Tony Robbins talks about. And then the last title I'll share with you is a book called Family Wealth by James Hughes Jr. That wound up being one of the winners for me. He talks about the Rothschilds and the Vanderbilts, and if our listeners haven't read the story and followed the paths of those two families, it's really remarkable. We had these two fantastically successful financial families in the 1800s, the Vanderbilts and the Rothschilds. And the Vanderbilts, I hate to say it this way, but they focused all their wealth on creating conspicuous consumption. And they built their mansion in New York, in Manhattan, and that was blocks and blocks and blocks long. So much so that they literally lost all their wealth. But the Rothschilds focused on, in a sense, diversifying, because he sent his 5 sons to 5 different countries to open 5 different banking institutions. He focused on generational wealth. And from that standpoint, aside from the riches of an individual person like Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or even Michael Bloomberg, the Rothschild family is probably the richest family on the planet today, whose wealth is probably approaching $300 to $400 billion. And part of the reason is because they focused on generational wealth, not on consuming their own capital for their own lifestyle. So there you go. There's some book titles.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's one of the things that I talk to people about is the 4 pillars of a strong personal economy, which is freedom to debt to others, ready cash when you need it, for emergencies, for opportunities, passive income you don't have to work for, you can't outlive. But the last one, which really should be the first one, is a legacy of wealth and wisdom. Right. And so you have to have, I have this similar book to that called Family Fortunes, and they all have a system of family governance, of principles. And money is not the most important asset. There's your human capital, there's the families, there's your charity, they had the family office concept, and all of them are involved. They know what their great grandparents did. I mean, they understand the family history. And it's important to keep the money together and perpetuate wealth. And see, one of my passions is to kind of bring that thinking to upper middle America, because, we still, in my mind, live in the greatest country in the world, and you still have the ability to create and maintain wealth. But it starts out with what you start out the conversation with, how you think.
Exactly. It's interesting that we talk about we talk about money and capital and wealth and economies and the things that build those financial components of wealth and the things that contribute to the escalation of wealth usually have nothing to do with money. They they have to do with the other things that we use to describe wealth, like you just mentioned: family wealth, educational wealth, cultural wealth, um, um, generational wealth, the wealth of faith, religious or spiritual wealth, emotional wealth. The fabric of the family is wealth, right? The knowledge and the wisdom and the skills that we pass down to our children is the greatest kind of wealth that we could give them. Because if you have all these strengths, all these elements of genius, the money will come. The money is a byproduct of people giving to each other and loving each other and serving each other. I mean, and actually, Buckminster Fuller, I mean, this man was a wild man. I think he died in about 1982 or 83. I'm not positive about that. But he said that there is enough wealth on this planet. If it weren't for governments, there's enough on this planet to make every single one of the 7 billion inhabitants a billionaire. And I believe that is more true than not true, because the man himself was a genius, and he has a lot of interesting writing. He has another book called the Grinch of Giants. But imagine the wealth is there. So the thing is, we spend our energies, if we're not focused correctly, we spend our energies trying to reach money and reach wealth. And, the Bible says that the money has wings. If you're pursuing wealth, you're pursuing the wrong things. Because if you pursue relationships and you seek to serve relationships and you seek to build people up, you will find ways to come into the money to achieve those ends and those goals. But I believe the love and the service and the gratitude and the loyalty and the devotion to others, being others focused, actually leads to more a more production of wealth than anything else.
Wow, that's awesome. And on that, because I could talk to you all day, Joe. I want to end on that, okay? Because that was awesome. What I want to do, somebody asked me to do this, so I want to do a quick recap from my notes, because you want to see, the goal of this podcast is I want you to learn. I want you to come away with actionable stuff. And so let me give you a recap of this. One of the things that we talked about was the first rule of the 7 principles of prosperity. I know Joe has 12, but is think, right? Think from a prosperous mindset. Scarcity, we say scarcity thinking keeps you stuck. You have to have a big why. Okay. Somebody once told me if the why is big enough, the how don't matter. You'll figure out how. Okay. Excellence. You have to commit to, I don't care what you're doing out there. You have to commit to excellence, because it's just like it's a paper thin difference between excellence and mediocrity. So you just got to do whatever you're doing a little bit more and focus on being excellent at what you do, and focus on giving. You hear Joe says that he reads, that helps him help his clients, but it also keeps him with, the stay young in the business, because he's always learning new things. So I want you to ask yourself, which of these traits can I apply to my life? Because, it's a saying, success leaves clues. Joe, once you close this out, tell them what you want to know about him, and give me a few parting words of wisdom.
Wow, parting words of wisdom. There are so many people that are such good people, great people, people who have gigantic hearts, and they can't get out of their own way because they are oppressed. They believe the media, where the media gives them all this false information, sometimes false hope, false product, false promise. There's a lot of lies going on in the media, and I think the first thing that people need to do is turn inward and determine for themselves, what is my life supposed to be about? And I need to kind of Put some of these talking heads away and stop listening to the media and listen to your gut once in a while. Find out what your family really needs. If you need to change jobs, change jobs. Don't hang on to something just because you thought it was a good idea to stay in it for 40 years for a pension. Do what you love, because that pension may not materialize because you may not make it past 65 and a half. Don't wait until 65 and a half to enjoy life. Enjoy every single minute. Enjoy what you're doing. Enjoy your family. Work your backside off to support the family values that you believe in. And then when you have your free time with your family, it will be so sweet.
That is awesome. So I want to thank you, Joe, from Alpha Omega Wealth out there in sunny, you're in the desert, so hot Las Vegas right about now. So I have to come visit you in like the fall or the spring,
Please, you have to promise you will.
Okay. And so listen, I want to thank you as we close out. If you like what we talked about here, I want you to make a comment, check like and make some comments on iTunes, subscribe to our podcast. Also, if you want some follow-up information, you can contact Joe at Alpha Omega Wealth. Our firm is Practical Wealth Advisors. Folks, you have a great day or night, depending where you're listening to this. And we will talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Practical Wealth. To access the show notes and resources, go to practicalwealthshow.com. To get your questions on the show, go to practicalwealthshow.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any investment decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Practical Wealth. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.